Back to our channel, we are in our chapter 48, that is splanchnic circulation. So first we need to understand this meaning, what is splanchnic circulation. So splanchnic here means the blood supply which is going to our GIT. So that is the meaning of splanchnic circulation. So let us see first the path, the small block diagram like this. By this we can easily understand even this glossary terms. So first let us start with heart. So heart actually in its left ventricle it starts its contraction, it produces cardiac output. In turn of this, by means of this, the blood reaches the aorta. So from the aorta the blood may go into three parts, like not only these three parts. In the systemic circulation it goes into different arteries, but mainly now as we are talking about GIT, in the GIT it goes mainly into these three important arteries. The first one is the celiac artery, and the next one is superior mesenteric artery, and the third one is the inferior mesenteric artery. So blood from aorta first enters into the celiac artery, and in turn in celiac artery it gives three branches to arteries like hepatic artery, spleen, and also to the stomach. And next comes the superior mesenteric artery. Superior mesenteric artery in turn gives blood to pancreas and also small intestine, and inferior mesenteric artery gives blood to colon. So once again let us see. Heart, coming from heart, especially left ventricle, blood is reaching the aorta. From the aorta blood is reaching the celiac artery, and from the celiac artery it is going into hepatic artery. And one more thing about hepatic artery, the blood from hepatic artery again also goes into the liver. We know the hepatic artery only produce the blood supply to the liver. So from hepatic artery it will also go to liver, and from spleen of course it will go into spleen. From stomach it will go into stomach. These are the arteries which are supplying them. So superior mesenteric artery supplies mainly pancreas and small intestine, whereas inferior mesenteric artery mainly supplies a colon. And superior mesenteric artery, some of its part may also supply to the colon, but mainly inferior mesenteric artery supplies the colon. So after this process, it undergoes capillary exchange. These are arteries, right? Next they enter into arterioles, and next you precapillary sphincter, and after that they enter into the capillaries, respective capillaries of each of this tissue. So after entering their capillaries, the exchange goes on, like they exchange the nutrients, oxygen with the tissues, and they take in turn the carbon dioxide waste from the tissues back into venous circulation. So here you can see these are the venous circulation. So from the venous circulation again they'll go back into the inferior vena cava. We know inferior vena cava mostly no, not to the inferior vena cava, but here in this case, normally we know in the normal systemic circulation, we always discuss about our microcirculation where we have arterioles, capillaries, venules, veins, right? So, but here you can see from the celiac artery, from the superior mesenteric artery, some from the inferior mesenteric artery, after forming the capillaries, from the capillaries they join into a vein which is called as portal vein. So, this is an important portal vein. So, portal vein receives mainly from three parts of venous blood, from celiac artery and its branches, from superior mesenteric artery and its branches, and also from inferior mesenteric artery. So like this blood gets collected into the portal vein, and from portal vein it will go into the liver. In turn from liver again, it has hepatic vein, right? In liver also it has hepatic vein. So from hepatic vein they all join together in the inferior vena cava. From inferior vena cava, it is directly attached to the right atrium, so it will attach to the right atrium. So this venous blood finally reaches the right atrium again to the heart. So this is like also a closed circulation you can see here. But why? What is the reason why this blood from celiac artery, blood from superior mesenteric artery, inferior mesenteric artery need to pass through the liver? Because liver is a major site of metabolism. Like almost everything, every thing which you eat or everything which is entering into our body should be metabolized in the liver. Then only we can absorb it properly. So all these are collected into the portal vein and they are sent into the liver. From the liver by means of hepatic vein into inferior vena cava, finally into the heart. So after understanding this circulation pattern, now let us see the glossary terms. So first we have the portal circulation. So we know by this time we know, everyone know this. Portal circulation is a two capillary beds in the series. In the case the blood flow mainly from, so what they say is in portal circulation two capillary beds are involved. What are those? Let us see. The blood flow from the gut, first the capillary bed, that is the first capillary bed, that is in gut also we have capillary bed, right? And flows by the portal vein into the liver, that is the second capillary bed. So in liver we have sinusoid cells, right? So there is capillary bed even in the liver, right? So two capillary beds are involved mainly in portal circulation. The first capillary bed is this one, because as we know celiac, superior, inferior mesenteric artery, all these are like one GI capillary bed. So they are considered under GI capillary bed. So one GI capillary bed and another capillary bed in the liver. So two capillary beds are involved in the case of portal circulation. And next comes the splanchnic circulation, the main topic today we are discussing. So the blood flow through the gut plus the blood flow by liver plus the blood flow from lymph plus the blood flow from pancreas. So the blood flow from gut, that is from our GI, from liver, and also from spleen, and also from pancreas. So you can see here pancreas. So like all this blood flow together is nothing but a splanchnic circulation that we are discussing now. So let's go into deep into this topic. So the blood vessels of GIT are mainly involved in splanchnic circulation. So the gut blood flow, so what is actually what includes the splanchnic circulation is the gut blood flow plus the spleen blood flow plus the pancreas blood flow plus liver blood flow. So all blood from the gut, spleen, pancreas flow to liver by portal vein, and in the sinusoids, they are lining the reticuloendothelial cells. So why they are useful, why they are mentioning about this reticuloendothelial cells, because they mainly remove the bacteria and other substances like other wasteful substances which are coming from the GIT into the liver sinusoids. So after from the sinusoids the blood later reaches into the hepatic vein. In turn from the hepatic vein it reaches into the inferior vena cava, and again into the right heart. So non-fat water soluble nutrients from the gut are reabsorbed in the liver. So this is very important. Non-fatty means water soluble substances are only reabsorbed in the liver, and here both the reticuloendothelial cells plus the principal parenchymal cells. What are the principal parenchymal cells of liver? Everyone knows that are the hepatic cells. So both the reticuloendothelial cells and the hepatic cells absorb, store half to 3/4 of nutrients, and also chemical processing of nutrients mainly occur in the liver cell. So liver cells also absorb the nutrients and also they process the nutrients. So almost all fats are absorbed from the intestinal tract, are not carried to the portal blood. That what we had discussed before. See, non-fat, only water soluble are to carry to the liver. Then where these fats will go now, let us see. So all fats are absorbed from the intestine tract, are not carried to portal blood, but they are absorbed into the intestine lymphatics, and then they are conducted to the systemic circulation by the way of mainly the thoracic duct bypassing liver. So actually here the thoracic duct also bypasses the liver. So instead of these fats, liver has some restrictions, like it will only allow the water soluble substances. It is saying no to fat. So now liver is saying no to fat, then what fat substances should do, where they should get absorbed? They'll get absorbed by means of bypassing, means by means of mainly the thoracic duct which bypass liver, means which escape from the liver, it directly enters into the systemic circulation. So this is how the fats are absorbed in our body. So next let us see the anatomy of GIT supply, that is gastrointestinal blood supply. Let us see how it takes place. So mainly we know we are having our superior, inferior mesenteric arteries which are involved. Also our celiac arteries are involved. So the arteries mainly supply the blood to the GI mainly by arching arterial system. So it's like an arching system. The arteries branch to the smaller arteries which are circling in both directions around the gut, with the tips of arteries meeting one side of the gut wall and opposite mesenteric attachment. So arteries spread along the muscle bundles, the intestinal villi, the submucosal vessels beneath the epithelium to serve secretory and also absorptive function of the gut. So you can see like every part of GIT system is involved here. You can see the muscle bundles are involved, the intestinal villi are involved, submucosal vessels are involved, and also why they are all involved? For the mainly the secretory and absorptive function of the gut. So the walls of arterioles are highly muscular and highly active in controlling the villous blood flow. We know this about already this. So the blood flow of area mainly depends on the local activity, of course. So example, if active reabsorption means high metabolism is going on, active reabsorption or active absorption of nutrients means there is high metabolism now in the GIT. Whenever there is high metabolism, the blood flow in the villi and also the adjacent regions of submucosa increases eightfold. We already seeing this from starting in a case of our regional circulation, in our coronary circulation, in our cerebral circulation, everything we are seeing the same thing is going on. Whenever there is higher metabolism in that particular local area, then there will be higher blood flow in that local area. So in the case of GIT, there is increase in eightfold of blood flow to the GI muscles. So blood flow in the muscle layers of intestine wall increase with the adjacent regions of submucosa, sorry Yeah, intestine wall increase with increase in motor activity and also secretory activity and also absorptive activity all increase. So remember, motor activity increase, that is that movement activity, peristalsis movement, all those activities, and also secretory activities increase and also absorptive activity increase. So all increase, that is leading to finally increase in blood flow and also decrease back to resting level over another 2 to 4 hours. Of course blood flow increases now, but later again it will come back to normal, like just in 2 to 4 hours. So vasodilator, which is released from the mucosa of intestine mainly during the digestive process, and most of them are peptide hormones. So remember, most of the vasodilators are peptide hormones, including cholecystokinin, vasoactive intestinal peptide, gastrin, secretin. This same hormones control the specific motor and secretory activities of gut, we know this. So but these are also again controlling the blood flow of the gut mainly by vasodilation. So this GI glands release into gut wall mainly two kinins, calidin, bradykinin. So these kinins are also powerful vasodilators mainly. So whenever there is decrease in oxygen concentration, what happens to the GIT? Let us see. So whenever oxygen concentration is low, increase in intestinal blood flow at least like 50 to 100%. So when our oxygen is low, blood pressure, blood flow is increased. Why it is increased? Because of vasodilation, of course. When our vasodilation, blood vessel has widened, so more blood flow, so increase the mucosal and gut uh, metabolic reactivity in mucosal and gut metabolic reaction in activity, and decrease oxygen concentration enough to cause the vasodilation. So always remember, when the oxygen concentration decreases, it leads to vasodilation, and in turn it's like a compensatory mechanism leading to increase in blood flow. So whenever decrease in oxygen, increase in fourfold of adenosine. Even adenosine is a powerful vasodilator, already we have seen in our coronary circulation, right? So when our adenosine is increased, even again the blood flow to the GI system is now increased. Well, let us see what is the counter current blood flow in villi. How it is this? What is this? Let us see. So actually the arteries and venous flow opposite in direction, that is shortcut is leading to about 80% of oxygen and no oxygen available for the local metabolic function of villi in normal. So if it is also analogous to vasarect of kidney medulla. So if you see this diagram, you will get a clear idea. So what we are saying about this counter current blood flow means, you can see here the arteries are supplying in this direction, but veins, you can see they are like draining from this direction. So they both are in opposite direction. Normally they should be in the same direction, but here they are in opposite direction, hence the name counter current. So you can see this is a central lacteal and these are the blood capillaries. This is a vein this side and this is a artery. So this is called as counter current blood flow, mainly seen in our villus. So it is also like analogous means it is similar to, it is same, this kind of counter current blood flow is also seen in vasarect of kidney medulla. So in disease, this shunting is harmful. In normal conditions it is okay, because normally the blood flows, but in the case of diseases this is causing harmful danger, that because the GI blood flow decreases. Example, in the case of circulatory shock, in shock there is hypovolemia, means decrease in blood volume. So oxygen deficit in tips of villi, and whole villus may undergo ischemic death and also may disintegrate, and so the villi gets blunted in GI diseases, and this blunting nature of villi mainly lead to decrease in absorptive capacity. So what happens in the case of diseases, especially gastrointestinal diseases, is because of this kind of blood flow, there is like especially in the case of shock or any other thing, then the tips may not get in proper blood, that is the tips are insufficient of blood, or sometimes even whole villi may be insufficient of blood. So because of this reason, what happens, the villi gets blunted, they are not sharp now, because as they are blunted, they don't have higher capacity, higher surface area to absorb the substances. So because of this, the absorptive capacity of villi decrease whenever there is any kind of GI disease. So next let us come to nervous control of gastrointestinal blood flow. So how nerves control them? So mainly stimulation of parasympathetic nervous system is going to stomach, and also it is going to lower colon and increase the local blood flow. At the same time also increase the glandular secretion. So normally in our heart or any other normal, till now what we have discussed is sympathetic nervous system normally should increase the glandular secretion or blood flow, but here it is opposite. You can see parasympathetic nervous system is leading to increase in glandular secretion and also increase in local blood flow, or increase in blood flow results 20 from increased glandular activity, that is increase in blood flow results secondary from increase in glandular activity. Sometimes what happen, first the glandular activity may increase and later the blood flow may increase, not as a direct effect of nervous stimulation, not by nervous stimulation, but first the glandular activity may increase and later the blood flow may increase, or otherwise sometimes first only the blood flow may increase and later the glandular activity may increase. So what happens by sympathetic stimulation, let us see. So whenever there is sympathetic stimulation, the direct effect of GI to cause the intense vasoconstriction of arterioles with decrease the blood flow. Yeah, of course, if vasoconstriction takes place, blood flow decreases and the flow returns to the normal after few minutes by autoregulation escape mechanism, that is the local metabolic vasodilator mechanism, which is mainly elicited by ischemia override the sympathetic vasoconstriction and returning towards the normal to necessary nutrient blood flow to GI gland and also muscle cells. So you can see here, because of sympathetic stimulation, blood flow is decreasing, but due to parasympathetic nervous system, there is increase in local blood flow. Yeah, we need yeah, even this parasympathetic and sympathetic stimulation is similar in most kinds of tissues, but blood pressures are different. Like because of parasympathetic nervous system, usually blood pressure decreases. Because of sympathetic nervous system, the blood pressure increases, but because of sympathetic stimulation, blood flow decreases because vasoconstriction. But because of parasympathetic nervous system, the blood flow increases because of vasodilation. So now let us see the importance of neurons, depression of gastrointestinal blood flow when other parts of the body need extra blood flow. So sometimes, like in some cases, like when you are in threat or when you are other cases, you immediately stop your GI activity and you focus only on the threat activity. Like so, like that here is like when we will when our body needs extra blood flow, then what the GI system does, let us see. So sympathetic system, because of vasoconstriction, shut off the GI and other splanchnic blood flow for the short time during heavy exercise or any stressful conditions. So when the skeletal muscle and heart muscle need high blood flow. So also in the case of shock, all body tissue are in danger of cellular deaths because of lack of blood flow. So especially the brain and heart need more blood flow. So sympathetic stimulation, because of sympathetic stimulation, there is decrease in splanchnic blood flow to very little for many hours. So always whenever any stress or any other conditions, like now for example, a tiger is back of you, then what you'll do now, you will digest your food or just run away from it. So the main thing now you need to do is run away. So all the blood now gets utilized to provide energy for you to run, but not to digest the food which you have ate. So in this all cases, like stressful conditions, all these dangerous situations, immediately the blood flow to the GI is stopped, or like only few small blood flow, only small blood flow may go to it, but main blood flow deviates to the work which you need to do now. So sympathetic stimulation leads to strong vasoconstriction of large volume intestinal and also mesenteric veins. So sympathetic stimulation, because of this, the vasoconstriction takes place and there is decrease in volume of these veins. So whenever there is decrease in volume of these veins, they displace the blood into other parts of circulation. And also in the case of hemorrhagic shock, other states of decrease, these are also other states. Whenever there is decrease in blood volume, they provide 200 to 400 milliliters of extra blood to sustain the general circulation. So whenever other parts of the body need extra circulation, our body autoregulates itself to decrease the blood flow to the splanchnic circulation and mainly increase the blood flow wherever the metabolic activity is high. And you also can see vasoconstriction decrease the volume of veins and displace the blood into other parts of circulation. And in hemorrhagic shock, it provides 200 to 400 milliliters of extra blood to sustain the general circulation. So what it means, in shock conditions, especially hemorrhagic means because of any accident or anything, lot of blood is lost from the body. So in this case, actually our GI system itself produces the 200 to 400 milliliters of extra blood to the other parts of systemic or general circulation for its sustaining. So this is all about our splanchnic circulation. Finally, let us see the diagrams and flow important boxes in our textbook. So you can see the splanchnic circulation here. We have drawn in a box format, but here you can see in a live format. Here you can see from the aorta, especially as we talk from heart, blood comes into aorta. From the aorta, where it goes into celiac artery, superior mesenteric, inferior mesenteric. Because of this, their branches, you can see it is some may go to splenic artery, some may go into intestine, some may go into liver. So all those at last should go by portal vein. You can see the portal vein, all those are forming here. So all of them, their veins, mainly the splenic vein, uh, the intestinal vein, so all these veins collect together and go by means of portal vein into the liver. After reaching the portal vein, they reach the sinusoids. You can see a sinusoid, hepatic sinuses. So in the sinuses, what happen? The blood flows here and exchange with the liver capillaries and liver tissue matter, and after that they get all the nutrients dumped into the liver, and they undergo several chemical metabolism, and finally they come out by hepatic vein and finally reach the inferior vena cava. From the inferior vena cava, they reach back into the right heart. And here you can see the arterial blood supply to intestine through mesenteric web. So you can see this is the aorta, this is the transverse colon, middle colic, ascending colic, right colon, ileocolic, appendix, ileum, branch of inferior mesenteric, superior mesenteric artery, descending colon, jejunum, jejunal arteries, ileal arteries. You can see everything. So this one we already discussed. It's a counter current blood flow seen in villi, and here we have some salient features of splanchnic circulation. So this splanchnic circulation is also called hepatomesenteric circulation. Why? Because mainly portal vein is involved, and mesenteric means GI system is involved. So hepatomesenteric circulation. So liver receives a dual blood supply from hepatic artery 1/4 and also from portal vein 3/4. Yeah, this is interesting. Right? Liver gets dual blood supply. Even it gets blood supply from hepatic artery, also from the vein. Normally, from vein the blood supply will not come, but in liver it is special. It is getting a blood supply through vein. About 3/4 is coming mainly from vein, and only 1/4 is coming from hepatic artery. And liver receives about like 25% of cardiac output. So till now we have seen like in our cerebral circulation we have seen 15% of cardiac output goes there, and in our heart coronary circulation we have seen only 5% of cardiac output goes there. But liver you can see 25% is going, because lot of nutrition is coming to the liver by means of portal vein, so it should do lot of work. So it also need high blood supply. So 25% of blood is going here, whereas 15% is only going to brain and only 5% is going to the heart. So the nervous characterized by portal circulation to capillary beds in sericea, and nervous control of intestinal blood flow. Parasympathetic generally vasodilated, sympathetic vasoconstriction, but effect may be overridden by some local factors that are autoregulatory escape. And increased intestinal blood flow is seen with increased GI motility, secretion of peptide hormones like cholecystokinin, vasoactive intestinal peptide, gastrin and secretin, and decreased oxygen concentration in the gut wall. So these are all the salient features of splanchnic circulation. So by this we also completed from our guide 10 the 48 chapters splanchnic circulation. Next we'll move on to the fetal and neonatal circulation.